The storm had come out of nowhere. Jack Morgan pulled his rain jacket tighter as the wind howled across the Oregon coastline. Dark clouds rolled overhead, and waves crashed against the rocky shore with increasing fury. Most people would have headed inland by now, but Jack wasn't most people. Just a few more samples, he muttered to himself, carefully placing a small creature into his collection container. As a marine biologist at the Pacific Northwest Research Station, he was used to bad weather. What he wasn't used to was the strange. Readings his equipment had been picking up all morning. Jack checked his watch. He really should head back to his cabin soon. The storm was getting worse by the minute. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a deafening crack of thunder. That's when he heard it, a sound that didn't belong among the storm's natural chaos. A cry. He squinted through the rain, scanning the churning waters. There, about 50 yards offshore, something was thrashing in the waves. Someone was drowning that without hesitation. Jack dropped his equipment and ran toward the water. He kicked off his boots and dove into the freezing ocean. The current immediately tried to push him back to shore, but Jack was a strong swimmer. He had grown up in these waters. He pushed forward, fighting against the powerful waves. As he got closer, he could see a figure struggling to stay above water. But something wasn't right. In the brief flashes of lightning, Jack caught glimpses of something that didn't look entirely human. He pushed the thought aside. Whatever or whoever it was, they needed help. "I'm coming," he shouted, though his voice was lost in the storm. When he finally reached the drowning figure, Jack was shocked by what he saw. It wasn't human at all. The creature had a humanoid shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, but its skin was pale, blue with strange patterns that glowed faintly under the water. What looked like gills fluttered weakly along its neck, and its fingers were webbed. It appeared female, with delicate features that seemed almost childlike. Jack had no time to process what he was seeing. The creature's eyes, large, silver, and without pupils, locked with his for a moment before closing. She was losing consciousness. He grabbed her around the waist and began swimming back to shore. She was surprisingly light in the water, but the current was getting stronger. Jack's muscles burned with effort as he fought to keep them both above the surface. A massive wave crashed over them, pushing them under. For a terrifying moment, Jack thought they might not make it. Then his feet touched sand, and he pulled them both toward the shore with renewed strength. Finally, they collapsed onto the beach. The alien girl wasn't breathing. Jack rolled her onto her side, unsure if human first aid would even work on her. He noticed the gills on her neck seemed damaged, clogged with what looked like oil or some dark substance. Working on instinct, Jack carefully cleared the debris from her gills. He then rolled her onto her back and checked for any sign of breathing. Nothing. He placed his hands on what he hoped was her chest and began compressions, praying that her heart was in roughly the same place as a human's. "Come on," he urged. "Breathe." After what felt like forever, the alien girl suddenly convulsed. Water spewed from her mouth and gills. Her eyes shot open, those strange silver orbs seeming to glow in the dim light. She looked at Jack with obvious confusion and fear. "It's okay," Jack said softly, trying to appear non-threatening. "You're safe now." The creature made a series of clicking and whistling sounds that Jack couldn't understand. She tried to sit up, but was clearly weak. She reached out a webbed hand and touched Jack's forehead. The touch sent a strange tingling sensation through his entire body. She made more sounds, softer this time, before her eyes rolled back and she passed out again. But she was breathing now, short, shallow breaths through both her mouth and gills. Jack knew he should call someone. The government, maybe? But as he looked at the unconscious alien, something told him that might not be the best idea. What would they do to her? He had seen enough sci-fi movies to know it probably wouldn't end well. He made a quick decision. His cabin was only a mile up the coast, isolated and well stocked with medical supplies. He could take her there until he figured out what to do. Jack carefully lifted the alien girl. Despite being nearly his height, she was surprisingly light. He made his way slowly along the shore, staying away from the main paths. The rain provided good cover, but he still moved cautiously. By the time they reached his cabin, the storm had begun to ease. Jack gently placed the alien on his couch and wrapped her in dry blankets. Up close and in better light, she was even stranger than he had first thought. Her skin wasn't just blue. It had patterns that shifted and changed color, slightly as she breathed. What he had taken for hair was actually more like fine tendrils that moved gently on their own. "What are you?" Jack whispered, though he knew she couldn't answer. He cleaned her gills more thoroughly with fresh water, noticing how the dark substance had damaged the delicate tissues. As he worked, he noticed a small device attached to her wrist. It looked technological, with small lights that blinked weakly. Jack moved around his cabin, gathering supplies and occasionally checking on his unusual guest. He tried to process what was happening. He had just rescued an alien from drowning. An actual alien. The scientific implications alone were staggering. As night fell, Jack sat in a chair across from the couch, watching the alien girl sleep. Breathing had steadied, and some color seemed to be returning to her skin, if you could call the deepening blue a color. The patterns on her skin glowed more brightly now, creating soft patterns of light that danced across his cabin walls. He should have been terrified, or at least calling every scientist he knew. Instead, Jack felt strangely calm. There was something almost familiar about her, despite her obvious alienness. Something in those silver eyes had connected with him. Somehow. The alien girl stirred slightly in her sleep. The device on her wrist blinked more rapidly now. Jack wondered if it was some kind of communication device. Were others looking for her? Would they come here? Outside, the storm had passed, leaving an unusual calm. Jack moved to the window and looked out at the night sky. The clouds had cleared, revealing a blanket of stars. One of those stars might be her home. What happens now? He asked quietly, not expecting an answer. Behind him, the alien girl's eyes opened, glowing silver in the darkness of the cabin. Jack jumped back as the alien girl sat up suddenly. Her silver eyes darted around the cabin, taking in every detail before settling on him. The glowing patterns on her skin pulsed rapidly, changing from blue to a purplish hue. "It's okay," Jack sighed, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe here." The alien tilted her head, studying him. Then she touched the device on her wrist. It lit up brightly, and a soft humming filled the room. She spoke again in that strange language of clicks and whistles. To Jack's amazement, the device on her wrist translated her words into English. "You saved me?" The voice was mechanical, but clearly female. "Yes," Jack replied, trying to hide his shock at the translation device. "You were drowning in the storm. Your gills seemed damaged." The alien touched her neck gently. "Oil from your machines. Our scout vessel detected it too late." She looked at Jack with those unnerving silver eyes. "I am Lyra of the Nivori, third daughter of High Sovereign Eloria. I'm Jack Morgan. I'm a marine biologist. I study ocean life." Lyra nodded as if this made perfect sense. "That explains your skill in the water." She attempted to stand, but swayed unsteadily. Jack rushed forward to help her. "You should rest. You nearly died out there." "Death would have been preferable to failure," Lyra said solemnly. "I was separated from my training group when we encountered the oil spill. I should have been more careful." Jack helped her back to the couch. "Training group?" Lyra's skin patterns shifted to a deeper blue. "We have been observing your planet for many cycles. I am part of the youth expedition. We study Earth's oceans and the creatures within, including humans." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "You've been watching us? For how long?" "Your people measure time differently. Perhaps 50 of your years?" She touched her wrist device again. "My people will be searching for me. I must contact them." "Wait," Jack said quickly. "Maybe we should think this through. If people find out about you, your governments are already aware of our presence," Lyra interrupted. "They simply lack proof. We have agreements with certain officials to maintain distance and secrecy." Before Jack could respond, a bright light swept across the windows of his cabin. He peered outside to see a black SUV pulling up the dirt road. More vehicles followed. "They found us," Jack whispered. "Not my people," Lyra said, her skin pulsing with alarm. "The patterns of approach suggest your military." Jack's mind raced. How had they found them so quickly? Had someone seen them on the beach? "We need to leave," he said, grabbing his backpack and stuffing it with supplies. "There's a path behind the cabin that leads down to a small cove. We might be able to—" A sharp knock on the door cut him off. "Dr. Morgan?" A female voice called. "Out. This is Agent Olivia Daniels with the Special Projects Division. We need to speak with you immediately." Jack looked at Lyra, who shook her head frantically. Her translator was still active, and she whispered, "They will take me, study me, cut me open." "Dr. Morgan, we know you're in there." Agent Daniels called again. "And we know you're not alone. Please open the door so we can talk peacefully." Jack grabbed Lyra's hand and led her toward the back door. "Stay quiet," he whispered. They slipped out the back just as the front door burst open. Jack heard shouts as they ran down the narrow path toward the ocean. The night was clear now, stars twinkling above them. The path was steep and rocky, difficult to navigate in the dark. They're heading for the cove. Someone shouted behind them. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Jack pulled Lyra behind a large boulder. "Can you swim?" he asked her. "With your gills still damaged?" Lyra nodded. "The water will heal me. It is our way." Jack looked back at the approaching lights, then out at the dark ocean. "What about your people? Can you contact them?" Lyra touched her wrist device again. It glowed brightly, then emitted a series of pulses that Jack couldn't hear, but could feel vibrating through his bones. "Now we wait," she said, "and hope my signal reaches them before your people reach us." The flashlights were getting closer. Jack could hear voices shouting commands, the crackle of radios. "Dr. Morgan," Agent Daniels called out. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. Let us help you." Jack didn't respond. He and Lyra crouched behind the boulder, listening to the agents getting closer. Suddenly, the water in the cove began to glow. Bubbles rose to the surface, and a soft humming filled the air. Jack stared in amazement as several figures emerged from the water. They looked similar to Lyra, but taller, their skin patterns more complex and brightly lit. One of the figures raised a hand, and a beam of light shot up into the sky. The agents on the path froze, their flashlights dimming and then going out completely. "My people," Lyra whispered, relief evident in her voice. "They have come." The tallest of the Naivori beckoned to them. Jack hesitated, but Lyra grabbed his hand. "You must come with me," she said urgently. "With you? Where?" "Away from here. Those agents will take you now that you have helped me. They will question you, imprison you." Jack looked back up the path. The agents seemed to be having trouble with their equipment, but that wouldn't last long. "But my life is here," he protested. Weakly. "You saved my life," Lyra said, her silver eyes intense. "In my culture, that creates a life debt. I must repay you. I cannot leave you to suffer for your kindness." More shouts came from the path. The agents were getting closer again. "Jack," Lyra said softly, using his name for the first time. "Trust me." Maybe it was the way she said his name, or the sincerity in those alien eyes, but Jack found himself nodding. Together, they ran down to the water's edge. The Nivari surrounded them. One placed a small device on Jack's neck, and suddenly he could breathe more easily, as if the air was richer. "It will help you breathe underwater," Lyra explained, "temporarily." The tall Nivari spoke, and Lyra's device translated. "We must go now. The humans have called for reinforcements." Jack took one last look at the shoreline, at his cabin visible on the cliff above. Everything he knew was here. His work, his life, his world. But when he turned back, Lyra was waiting with an outstretched hand. Her skin glowed with a warm, inviting light. "There is much I must explain," she said. "About the life debt, about the reward that is now yours by right." "Reward?" Jack asked, confused. Lyra's expression was serious. "You saved a royal daughter of the Nivari. The reward for such an act is ... significant." Before Jack could ask more, they were surrounded by a bubble of energy. The ocean waters closed over them as they descended into the depths, leaving the human world behind. Jack had never imagined anything like this. They traveled through the deep ocean at impossible speeds, protected by some kind of energy bubble that kept them dry and supplied with air. The Nivari swimmers guided them through the darkness with their glowing skin patterns lighting the way. After what seemed like hours, they approached what looked like a massive coral structure resting on the ocean floor. But as they got closer, Jack realized it wasn't coral at all. It was a ship. "Our mothership," Lyra explained, noticing his amazement. "It is alive, in a way your vessels are not." The ship pulsed with light as they approached, opening a section of its outer wall to allow them entry. Water drained away as they entered a chamber that sealed behind them. Jack removed the breathing device from his neck, looking around in wonder. The interior walls seemed to breathe, contracting and expanding gently. Lights moved through what looked like veins or channels throughout the structure. "This way," Lyra said, leading him down a corridor. "The Council of Elders wishes to meet you." "Council of Elders?" Jack asked nervously. "Our leaders. They will want to thank you personally for saving me." She paused, looking at him with those silver eyes. "You are the first human to ever board a Nivari vessel." Jack felt the weight of that statement. "I'm not sure I'm the best representative." For humanity, Lyra's skin patterns shifted to a warmer hue. "You dove into dangerous waters to save a stranger. I think you represent the best of humanity." They entered a large circular chamber where several Nivari waited. They were older than Lyra, their skin patterns more complex, and their bodies taller. They sat in curved chairs that seemed to grow. From the floor itself, one of them, wearing what looked like a uniform with swirling patterns, approached them. "I am Admiral Zenith, captain of this vessel," Lyra's device translated. "You have our eternal gratitude, human Jack Morgan." Jack nodded awkwardly. "I just did what anyone would do." The Admiral made a gesture that Jack couldn't interpret. "Not. All would risk themselves for an unknown being. You showed true nobility." An older female Nivari stepped forward. Her skin glowed with a deep purple light. "I am Elder Serena of the Council. We have much to discuss, but first you must rest and adjust. We are preparing to leave Earth's waters." "Leave?" Jack asked, alarmed. "Where are we going?" "To our homeworld, Aquarius Prime," Lyra said. "It is necessary for the life-death ceremony." Jack felt panic rising in his chest. "Wait, I can't just leave Earth. My work, my life, your government." "Agents were prepared to take you prisoner," Admiral Zenith interrupted. They know you have had contact with us. You would be questioned, perhaps worse. We monitored their communications, Elder Serena added. They have classified you as a person of extreme interest. Your freedom on Earth is compromised. Jack's mind raced. Would they really imprison him just for helping Lyra? Then he remembered Agent Daniels and her team, how quickly they had found his cabin, how prepared they had seemed. How long would we be gone? He asked finally. The journey takes one full cycle of your moon, Lyra answered. We must reach deep space before activating the void drives. Jack felt dizzy. Space travel, alien homeworlds, life-death ceremonies. It was too much to process. You should rest, Lyra said gently, sensing his overwhelm. I will show you to your quarters. As they left the chamber, Jack felt the ship begin to move. A screen-like section of the wall showed the ocean outside as they rose from the depths. Will I ever come back? He asked quietly. Lyra's expression was solemn. That will depend on many factors. But know this, you will be honored among my people. The life debt is our most sacred tradition. Jack's quarters were small but comfortable, with strange furniture that adjusted to his body when he sat or lay down. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that reminded him of early dawn. On Earth, he couldn't sleep. Everything had happened so fast. Just yesterday, he had been collecting samples on the beach. Now he was on an alien ship heading for the stars. A soft chime sounded, and Lyra entered. She had changed into more formal attire, a flowing garment. That complemented her skin patterns. I thought you might have questions, she said, sitting across from him. The Admiral has asked me to help you understand our ways during the journey. Jack had 1,000 questions, but one seemed most important. You mentioned a reward. What exactly does that mean? Lyra's skin shifted to a more serious tone. When one of our people saves another, it creates a bond. But when an outsider saves one of royal blood, the reward must equal the value of the life saved. Royal blood? Lyra nodded. I am the third daughter of High Sovereign Eloria, ruler of all Nivori. My life has significant value in our culture. Jack stared at her in shock. You're a princess? That term is close enough, Lyra said. I was on a training mission as part of my education. Royal children must learn about other worlds firsthand. Jack ran his hands through his hair. So what is this reward? That is for the High Sovereign to decide. But traditionally, it is either vast wealth or a position of great honor in our society. Jack laughed nervously. I don't need either. I just want to go home eventually. Lyra tilted her head. The life debt must be honored. To refuse would be a grave insult to our entire civilization. Before Jack could respond, the ship rumbled. Admiral Zenith's voice echoed through the room. We have cleared Earth's atmosphere, preparing for void jump. A screen appeared on one wall, showing a view of Earth below them. It looked so peaceful from here, a blue marble hanging in the blackness of space. It's beautiful, Jack whispered. Yes, Lyra agreed. Your world is young but full of potential. The ship rumbled again, more strongly this time. You should prepare, Lyra warned. The first void jump can be disorienting for species not accustomed to it. Jack felt a strange tingling throughout his body. The view of Earth on the screen stretched and distorted. What's happening? He asked, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. We are creating a pathway through space, Lyra explained, her voice similarly distorted. Your scientists might call it a wormhole. Everything around Jack seemed to stretch and compress at once. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he felt like he was everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Then, suddenly, it stopped. The screen now showed only stars, with no sign of Earth. Where are we? Jack asked, his head spinning. Just beyond your solar system, Lyra said. "The first jump is always the shortest. We will make several more before reaching Aquarius Prime." Jack looked at the unfamiliar stars. He had never felt so far from home, so completely out of his depth. As if reading his thoughts, Lyra placed a webbed hand on his shoulder. "Do not fear, Jack Morgan. You saved my life without knowing who or what I was. Such nobility deserves more than fear and confusion as its reward." Jack met her silver eyes. "I just hope whatever this reward is, it's worth leaving everything behind." Lyra's skin glowed with a soft, reassuring light. "My mother, the High Sovereign, will ensure it is worthy of your sacrifice. This I promise you." A journey to Aquarius Prime took 28 Earth days. During that time, Jack learned much about the Naivori and their culture. Lyra was his constant companion, teaching him their language and customs. "We are approaching the outer moons," Admiral Zenith announced one day as Jack and Lyra sat in the observation chamber. Jack looked up at the large viewing screen. A massive planet came into view, larger than Earth and entirely covered in swirling blue-green oceans. 7 moons of various sizes orbited the planet, each glowing with a different colored light. "Aquarius Prime," Lyra said proudly. "Our homeworld." Jack stared in amazement. "It's beautiful. There's no land at all?" "No solid land as you know it," Lyra explained. "Our cities rest on the ocean floor or float in the currents. Some are attached to the moons during certain seasons." As they descended toward the planet, Jack saw enormous structures beneath the water's surface. Glowing cities spread across the ocean floor, connected by what looked like transport tubes. Countless Naivori swam freely between the structures, their skin patterns creating a breathtaking light show. "A capital city, Lumina," Lyra said as they approached the largest cluster of buildings. "My mother's palace is at its center." The ship entered a massive underwater dome and settled into a docking area. When they disembarked, Jack was given another breathing apparatus. "This is more advanced than the temporary one," Lyra told him. "It will allow you to live comfortably underwater for extended periods." A group of elaborately dressed Naivori met them at the dock. They bowed deeply to Lyra and regarded Jack with obvious curiosity. "The royal escort," Lyra explained. "They will take us to the palace." They traveled through the city in a bubble-like transport. Jack pressed his face against the clear wall, taking in the wonders of this alien world. Naivori of all ages swam past, some stopping to stare at the human in their midst. The buildings were unlike anything on Earth, organic structures that seemed to grow from the ocean floor, pulsing with light and life. The palace was the most impressive structure of all. Made from what looked like pearl and coral, it towered above the other buildings, its spires reaching toward the surface far above. As they entered, Jack noticed the water inside was somehow different, easier to move through, almost like air. "Modified water," Lyra explained, seeing his confusion. "It allows both water breathers and air breathers to function comfortably." They were led through grand hallways, decorated with moving light patterns, until they reached an enormous chamber. Hundreds of Naivori were gathered, all wearing formal attire that enhanced their natural glow. They parted as Jack and Lyra entered, murmuring among themselves. At the far end of the chamber, seated on a throne that seemed to be made of living coral, was a Naivori larger and more radiant than any Jack had seen. Her skin patterns were incredibly complex, shifting through colors Jack couldn't even name. She wore a simple crown of what looked like pearls, and her silver eyes fixed on Jack immediately. "My mother," Lyra whispered. "High Sovereign Eloria of the Seven Seas." Jack found himself moving forward, following Lyra's lead. When they reached the throne, Lyra bowed deeply. Jack did the same. The High Sovereign spoke. Her voice translated by the device Jack now wore on his wrist. A gift from Lyra during their journey. Jack Morgan of Earth, she said, her voice strong and clear. You stand before us as the savior of our daughter. For this, all Nivori honor you. The assembled crowd made a musical sound in unison, their skin patterns pulsing in harmony. Thank you, Your Highness, Jack replied, unsure of the proper address. But I only did what anyone would do. The High Sovereign's expression was unreadable. My daughter tells me you believe this. It speaks well of your character. She rose from her throne, towering over Jack. The life debt must be honored. Are you prepared to receive your reward? Jack glanced at Lyra, who nodded encouragingly. I am, Your Highness. Very well, the High Sovereign said. You will undergo the purification ritual tonight. The ceremony will take place tomorrow, at the rising of the first moon. As they left the throne room, Jack turned to Lyra. Purification ritual? It prepares you to receive the gift, she explained. Do not worry. It is painless, merely ceremonial. That night, Jack was led to a small chamber filled with glowing plants. Several elder Nivori performed the ritual, which involved bathing him in different colored waters and painting temporary patterns on his skin that mimicked their own natural markings. When it was done, Jack was given special garments to wear. A tunic and pants made from a material that shifted colors like Nivori skin. You should rest now, one of the elders told him. Tomorrow is a significant day, but Jack couldn't sleep. His mind was filled with questions about the mysterious reward. Would it be wealth? Some position in their society? And what would happen? Afterward, would he ever see Earth again? Morning came quickly. Lyra arrived to escort him to the ceremony, dressed in elaborate royal attire that made her glow more brightly than ever. You look nervous, she observed. I am, Jack admitted. I still don't know what this reward will be. Lyra's expression grew. Serious. The nature of the gift is decided by the High Sovereign alone. Not even I know what it will be. The ceremony was held in an enormous underwater amphitheater. Thousands of Nivori were in attendance, their combined light patterns creating a spectacular display. Jack stood beside Lyra on a raised platform, facing the High Sovereign and the Council of Elders. The ceremony began with music, haunting sounds produced by the Nivori themselves, using their bodies to create harmonies that resonated through the water. Then came speeches from the elders, recounting the story of Jack's rescue of Lyra and the importance of the life debt. Finally, the High Sovereign rose and approached Jack. The crowd fell silent. Jack Morgan of Earth, she said, her voice amplified throughout the amphitheater. You saved our daughter without knowledge of her identity or expectation of reward. Such an act deserves our highest honor. She gestured, and two Nivori brought forward a small, glowing orb. This contains the genetic key, the High Sovereign explained. It will activate dormant DNA within human biology. DNA we placed there eons ago when we first visited your world. Jack stared at the orb in confusion. I don't understand. This gift will allow humans to breathe underwater, the High Sovereign continued. It will extend your lifespans by centuries. It will open the door for humanity to join the galactic coalition of species. Jack's mind reeled. This wasn't wealth or a position of honor. This was something far greater, something that could change the entire course of human evolution. This knowledge belongs to all humanity, the High Sovereign said. You will be its bearer. Through you, your species will take its next great step forward. The orb floated toward Jack, hovering before him. The High Sovereign's voice grew solemn. Do you accept this reward on behalf of humanity, Jack Morgan of Earth? Jack looked at Lyra, who watched him with those silver eyes. He thought of Earth, of his small cabin on the Oregon coast, and he thought of what this gift could mean for his species. He began, the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders. Jack stared at the glowing orb hovering before him. The entire amphitheater was silent, thousands of Naivori waiting for his answer. This wasn't just about him anymore. This decision would affect all of humanity. "I accept this gift," Jack said. Finally, his voice clear and resolute. "But I have one condition." A murmur ran through the crowd. The High Sovereign tilted her head, her skin patterns shifting to a curious blue. "Speak your condition, Jack Morgan." "Humans should be allowed to choose individually whether to activate these genetic changes," Jack said. "It shouldn't be forced upon everyone. Each person should have the right to decide for themselves." The High Sovereign was silent for a long moment, then her skin brightened. "Your wisdom honors you. We agree to your condition. The gift will be offered to humanity, not imposed." She gestured, and the orb floated into Jack's hands. It was warm to the touch, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "With this acceptance, the life debt is honored," the High Sovereign announced. "And with it, a new chapter begins for both our peoples." The crowd erupted in a chorus of musical sounds, their skin patterns flashing in celebration. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining. "You have made a wise choice," she said softly. "My mother has appointed me to accompany you back to Earth as our ambassador. We will present this gift to your leaders together." 2 weeks later, Jack found himself standing on the deck of a human ship in the Pacific Ocean. Above them, the Naivori mothership hovered, partially cloaked, but still visible enough to make its presence known. Agent Olivia Daniels stood across from him, looking far less threatening than she had the night of his escape. Beside her were representatives from the United Nations and several world governments. "When we detected your return to Earth orbit, I never expected this," Agent Daniels said, gesturing to the Naivori delegation that stood with Jack. Lyra was at his side, along with Admiral Zenith and 2 members of the Council of Elders. "You were right about one thing," Jack told her. "I didn't understand what I was dealing with, but not in the way you thought." The UN Secretary General stepped forward. "Dr. Morgan, you've brought us an opportunity unlike any in human history. The genetic gift the Naivori offer could transform our civilization." Jack nodded. "But remember our agreement. This must be a choice for each individual, not a mandate." "Of course," the Secretary General replied. "We've already begun preparing for global discussions. This will take time. Over the next few months." The world changed dramatically. The Naivori established an embassy in the depths of the Pacific, with transportation hubs in major coastal cities. Scientists from around the world worked together to understand the genetic key, confirming it was safe and understanding its implications. Some people embraced the gift immediately. Others were more cautious. Religious leaders debated the spiritual implications, while philosophers questioned what it meant to alter human nature. But the evidence was clear. The gift worked exactly as promised, allowing humans to breathe underwater and extending their lifespans considerably. Jack found himself at the center of it all. As the human who had first contact with the Naivori, he became an unofficial ambassador, helping to bridge the gap between the two species. He established the first human Naivori research center at his old station on the Oregon coast. One evening, 6 months after his return to Earth, Jack stood on the beach near his rebuilt cabin. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. In the water, a group of humans who had accepted the genetic changes swam alongside several Naivori visitors, their laughter carrying across the waves. Lyra emerged from the water and joined him on the shore. Her time on Earth had changed her too. She had adopted some human mannerisms and enjoyed experiencing the surface world. "Your people are adapting well," she observed. "Already, the first underwater human settlement is being planned off the coast of Australia." Jack smiled. and the Galactic Coalition has accepted Earth's application for observer status. It's happening faster than I ever imagined. Lyra's skin patterns shifted to a warm golden hue. There is something I haven't told you, Jack, about the life debt. What's that? He asked, turning to face her. In Naivori tradition, saving a royal life creates a bond that goes beyond the formal reward, she said. A connection that links the savior and the saved. Jack had noticed something strange over the past months. Sometimes he could sense Lyra's feelings, even when she was miles away. Occasionally, he found himself thinking in patterns that reminded him of Naivori language. I felt it, he admitted, the connection between us. I thought I was imagining things. Lyra shook her head. The touch I gave you on the beach, right after you saved me, it began a genetic bond. It's why you adapted so quickly to our world, why you understand our language so easily now. Why didn't you tell me before? Jack asked. Such bonds are sacred to my people. I needed to be sure you were ready to understand. She looked out at the ocean, her expression serious. The bond will grow stronger over time. Already, your genetic structure is changing, becoming something new. Jack thought about this. Neither fully human nor Naivori. Something better than both, Lyra suggested. A bridge between our worlds. In the distance, lights from the first, permanent Naivori embassy glowed beneath the water's surface. Above, stars began to appear in the darkening sky, some of which now hosted human observers learning from other coalition species. Do you ever regret it? Lyra asked quietly. Saving me that day? All that's happened since? Jack thought about his old life, the quiet days collecting samples, the solitude of his cabin. It seemed like another lifetime now. He had seen another world, helped open the door to the stars for humanity, and found a connection he never could have imagined. Not for a second, he replied honestly. Lyra's skin glowed brightly in response. She took his hand, her webbed fingers intertwining with his. Jack noticed the faint webbing that had begun to form between his own fingers, another sign of the changes happening within him. The High Sovereign was right, Lyra said. This is just the beginning of a new chapter for both our peoples. As the last light of the sun disappeared below the horizon, Jack and Lyra walked together toward the water's edge. Without hesitation, they dove into the waves, swimming side by side into the depths in the deep waters off the Oregon coast. Human and Naivori children played together in the bioluminescent gardens that had been planted as a symbol of cooperation. Scientists from both species worked together in the research center, learning from each other and making discoveries that benefited both worlds. And far above, on the International Space Station, the first joint human-Naivori crew prepared for humanity's first journey beyond their solar system, the first step of many that would take them to the stars, all because one man had dived into a stormy sea to save a drowning girl.